Hello, and welcome back to Neuroconvergent Leadership, where we talk about communicating with people who are neurodivergent, which is pretty much everyone who isn't quite like you. It's a very diverse world out there, and that can make communication a challenge sometimes. I'm Jeremy Doran. I help great engineers become great leaders. Have you ever felt like an imposter? Just about everyone does sometimes, especially when taking on a new role, for instance, being a manager for the first time. So today, we're going to explore imposter syndrome. I'm Jeremy, and I'm an imposter. I wonder if there are any meetings that start that way, maybe a support group. I feel like an imposter a fair amount of the time, and it's come up a few times recently, so I figured I'd do an episode about it. I was having coffee with a friend of mine a few weeks back, and he asked me how it was going, and I said, okay, mediocre. He said, why? Why not great? He said, I don't feel like I'm really accomplishing much. And I was just kind of down. I was telling a story about when I was in elementary school and the health teacher talked about your ILAC, which is IALAC, stands for I am lovable and capable. And for whatever reason, over all these years, that has stuck with me. And I told him today, my ILAC is low. I'm not feeling lovable and capable. And it got us talking about imposter syndrome. And he was talking about it for himself and how often he feels like he's not living up to what other people think of him. And so he went on for a little while and he said, I get why I feel that way, but why would someone like you feel that way? And in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course I feel that way. Why would he? It's so strange how other people's perception of us and our own perception of ourselves don't always match. And then it just came up yesterday. I was having coffee with another person who I didn't know very well. I had met once at a networking event, and we decided to meet for coffee. And one thing she said was, after we met at the networking thing, I knew I wanted to meet you for coffee because I like to surround myself with excellent people. I love to be around excellence. And it made me kind of look around the room. I'm like, me? You're talking about me? That's kind of crazy. And third example, I have some truly excellent friends. They are incredible. They're smart. They're funny. They're interesting. They're really successful. And every once in a while, I feel like, why would they be friends with me? It seems surprising. And they are not just friends with me, they will go out of their way to spend time with me. It is, in one way, makes me feel like an imposter. And in another way, it helps argue against it. I'm like, wow, if they actually want to spend time with me, then I must be pretty okay. Imposter syndrome is a term that was coined back in the 70s by Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes in a research paper. And it basically was describing high achieving individuals who, despite objective success, fail to internalize their accomplishments. And they have persistent self doubt and fear that they're going to be exposed as a fraud or an imposter. People with imposter syndrome generally struggle with accurately attributing their performance to their actual competence. So, what they do is when they have a success, they will attribute it to luck or outside factors. But when they have a setback, it feels internal, like, yep, this is evidence of what I truly am. So that's what imposter syndrome is. And around a third of all young people suffer from it on a very regular basis. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that it's usually their first job, or they are learning new things in school, learning new things on their first job. When you're trying something new, it can make you feel like an imposter. But 70% of everyone experiences it at some or multiple points in their lives. And going back to the definition, it's interesting that it's most common in high achievers. The fact that high achievers surround themselves with excellent people makes for a tough comparison. If you look around and everyone around you is excellent and you're looking at yourself and you're thinking, I'm not as good as them, that can make you feel like you don't belong, like you're an imposter. If you never suffer from imposter syndrome, it probably means you're not trying new things and you're not challenging yourself. So, in some ways, imposter syndrome is actually good. It means you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, growing, learning new things, but that can be scary and it can make people feel like an imposter. It's really interesting the difference between humility and pride. So it's good to be humble. I like being humble. I don't like talking about things that I've accomplished, but I do like to internally be prideful of things that I've accomplished. So it's a tough balance that you have to have between being outwardly humble, but also understanding the strength within yourself and having pride in it. Because the grass is always greener. When people look at you, they see excellence. When you look at them, you probably see excellence. The grass is literally always greener on the other side. And I learned this when I lived in a little cul-de-sac. I would always look down at my lawn, and my lawn had a lot of bare patches in it. I did my best, but I didn't have a ton of time. It wasn't that great. The person across the street was retired, and the two of them spent a lot of time on their lawn. They were always out there raking, trimming, mowing, seeding, doing all sorts of things. Their grass looked incredible. One day I walked across the street to talk to him, and when I did, I looked down at his grass, and guess what I saw? I saw bare patches. Not quite as many as were on my lawn, but there were definitely bare patches in his lawn. And when I looked down, it didn't look nearly as great. I looked across at my lawn, and my lawn looked incredible. So much of it has to do with the change of the angle. When you're standing on it, you look down and you can see right through the grass to all the bare patches. When you're looking at an angle, everything gets covered up. So, quite literally, the grass is always greener on the other side. So, when you are contrasting how you see yourself and how other people see you, the truth might be that your grass is pretty darn green. It's just tough to see when you're standing right on top of it. So, what do you do about it? When you have imposter syndrome, or anytime, in fact, I always recommend accept compliments well. It's a really good habit to get into. If someone compliments your shoes, don't say, oh, they're only $2. Say, thank you. If someone says, oh, that was a really great job, don't say, oh, it was nothing. Why belittle this? Say thank you. It does two things. It helps reinforce for yourself that you did accomplish something, which is important. It also honors the other person. When they have given you a compliment and you dismiss it, that doesn't make anyone feel good. It makes you feel bad because you dismiss a compliment, and it makes them feel bad because you basically took something that they were giving you and you threw it away. So honor the other person, say thank you, and then you can either just let it stop there, or you can say, thank you, I worked really hard on that, and explain what you did to get there. Either way is okay. Just don't dismiss compliments. A second way is be honest and record your successes, even the small ones. Start a journal. When something good happens, write it down. You accomplish something, write it down. And then if you look at the end of the month of all the things you accomplished, it might help you realize how much you're getting done. Another way of doing it is just write a short biography of yourself and some of the things you do and your successes. Write it down and then leave it. Go back the next day or a couple days later. When you read that about yourself cold, it can be pretty surprising how impressive it looks. And you're the one who wrote it, so you know it's true. And the last thing I would do is ask the people you trust and respect. Like I said, I've got really incredible friends. Every once in a while, I've let them know that I'm surprised that they're friends with me. And the way that they come back to me and explain why they are and what they like is kind of awkward to hear, but it's really, really good information to help get over imposter syndrome. So if you like and trust them and respect them, ask them, see what they say. In wrapping up, if you feel like an imposter sometimes, I'd be very interested in hearing your story and what you do about it. How do you get past it? Is there a technique that works for you? And if so, I'd love to share it so that everyone can benefit. If you can, go to my webpage, neuroconversantleadership.com, and send me a note with your story, because I can't wait to hear it and I can't wait to share it. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again next week.